In this episode of The Full Nerd, the fastest SSD ever, the state of HDR, and FreeSync 2, and AMD's got a deal for you. Welcome to The Full Nerd, episode 49, being broadcast to you live from someone's armpit because we have no air conditioning in the studio today. Thank you, Macworld. I'm your host, Gordon Mong, with co-host Brad Charkis.
Episode 49, that's almost 50.
I know, it's crazy. What
Almost
do we
over
do to
the hill.
celebrate?
Cake.
I'll wear
Just
pants.
another number. Just another number. Laney Yee.
Hi, everybody.
And, of course, Adam Patrick Murray, who will now try to derail the whole thing.
Brad, did you just say you'd wear pants for a change, meaning that you don't usually wear pants?
Yeah, to celebrate, I'll put some pants on.
Oh, okay. Nice. Now we know what happens on off camera for all these
Beauty of working
episodes.
from home.
It took us 50 episodes to get to the bottom of what was in the bottom
I see
of
what
the
you did
frame.
there.
Oh.
Does anybody do that, though? You ever, like, work when you're working at home and you just sit there with, like, no pants on? That's just, like,
No,
normal, right?
I have a leather office chair, so that would be like the first thing I had.
Oh boy.
Well, I don't know. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. You should try it. Everybody should try that. Working from home without any pants on. It's cool. Or shorts, I guess. Shorts work too, but not the same. You got to get the full effect. You got to sit there in your undies at work.
At work?
Yes. Well, you know.
While working.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
While working.
All right. We got to
It's
clear
like
that
getting
up.
paid what you're doing. We're running out of time. I'm wasting it already.
Yeah.
First topic, though, Samsung 970 Pro NVMe M.2 PCIe Drive-by-4. Fastest SSD ever.
Is it?
Well, our review, which you can read on PCWorld.com, written by John Jacoby, says, yeah, it is indeed the fastest SSD ever, which is not exactly surprised because, as we know, everyone knows, Samsung has been kicking butt in SSDs, right?
I mean, the 960 is pretty prevalent, right? I mean, I have a couple.
Right.
You know.
960 is awesome. This is more awesome, apparently.
Yeah. Well, because
Slightly more awesome, it seems.
Yeah.
I mean, how much faster is it? Is it really?
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? Does it really matter that much? It is faster. The bars are longer, but
I mean, who do you think it's going to affect the most? Like content creators like me, or I mean, come on, I mean, it can't be a gamer. Like, it can't make big difference for games, right?
I honestly don't think it does. I mean, my experience has been level loads don't, once you get past the horribleness of a hard drive, it doesn't really change that much. And a lot of it is really just simply all the textures being decompressed in real time, so your CPU can slow you down as much, and then it's not really the drive intense load that people think it is. At least the last time I looked. So we should.
It's nice, though. I have a 960 Pro, the old one.
Yeah.
And playing Sea of Thieves, the Xbox, Microsoft's Xbox cross-platforms, you play with people from Xbox and PC.
Mm-hmm.
The PC storage already has advantage, so you load in much faster after you kill somebody or you die or whatever.
Yeah.
The NVMe drive makes it just a little bit faster than a standard SSD. So you get back in after a death like a full 20 or 30 seconds faster than the Xbox players.
Sorry, my mic cut out there, Brad. What'd you say?
You
Your
get a
mic?
full 20, 30 seconds faster back respawn before Xbox players. You can just keep whomping them.
Yeah, it sounded like Brad said it was like a 20 to... Did they really allow you to play against Xbox players?
Yep.
It's not a big deal in that game. It's not like an intense first-person shooter.
I mean, I got to say, like, loading in faster, though, I didn't even think about that because obviously you're going to, you got to stay on that ship for a little bit, and then when you can go back in, it's got to reload, but I didn't think the advantage that you could have of that to get back
it's
on your
huge.
ship. Yeah.
20 or 30 seconds, though? That's insane.
I mean, but that's pretty typical. I feel like a lot of console games, like the load times are pretty significant compared to PC, especially if you have an NVMe.
But isn't that just a
Hard
respawn,
disk
though?
drives.
Why in the world would it? It's just a respawn. Why would you need to...
Well, because it
You get booted into like a
Yeah.
ghost ship, and then you have to respawn back into the world after.
So, wow, that's bizarre.
That's an edge case, though. That's not typical. Typically, a standard SSD do you find for PC?
Right. I mean, yeah, for PC games, NVMe versus SATA is not a huge deal, or a regular TLC drive. And I don't think it's a big deal, but I'm just surprised that they would not fix that, because I remember that's how it was way back in Battlefield, in the Battlefield 1942, and a lot of games of that sort of vintage, you'd have, I'm really dating myself here, but if you had a 10,000 RPM WD, Raptor drive,
Ooh.
you would load in like
10,000.
And you'd be running, RAID 0, because that's what you did way back then. And you would load in like 15 seconds ahead of everybody. You would be halfway to the spawns when they even bothered to load in, which is crazy if you think about it.
For a game like that, yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, I got to say, that's a developer issue. That's kind of crazy.
I'm fine with them letting the slow Xbox hard drive spin slower while I'm in there killing all the dudes.
It makes you think like you want to basically have a RAM drive and just run the game out of a RAM drive. So you could spawn like 12 times before they've even spawned once.
Well, Bastelwe, I always mess this up, over on Twitch said it averages out because Xbox players survive 30 seconds longer, so then they're just better, So.
Wait. Why would they?
Because they're just better. They survive 30 seconds longer, so then the PC players have to die and then come back quicker.
I was just thinking that in the end, it kind of works out because they can only respawn 5 times. In the meantime, you've respawned 25 times. So they die fewer times because you only have like in one game, if you're on an Xbox, you only load in like 5 times or something. Whereas, I don't know.
You just have to be better,
That's just crazy, though. I mean, that's just, I don't know. That to me is a failure of a game design there because you should at least balance it. That would just suck. Could you imagine Counter-Strike being like that? Like, where you just like, you're spawning, like, hey, what's happened? Everybody's dead. Like, and then everybody's like standing right around you waiting for you to spawn in. That
would be funny.
That is not good. But yeah, so, yeah, I mean, it's interesting, though. I got to say, I do think we are kind of getting to the point where do you really need, if you had a 960 Pro, would you go out and buy a 970 Pro?
No.
I mean,
no.
These are all incremental.
Yeah.
And
what
also,
I think is interesting is how more budget NVMe drives are available now. Like alongside the 970 Pro, Samsung also released a 970 Evo.
Yeah.
And that's competing with Western Digital's WD Black 3D NVMe, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And both of those are just under 960, 970 Pro performance for like 30% less or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
How much is the 970?
Oh, gosh.
Like 300 something for 500 gigs, I think.
It's pretty pricey.
And like 600
yeah.
something for the 1 terabyte version.
Huh.
Yeah, it's 330 for 500 gigs, 630 for 1 terabyte.
Yeah.
I mean, but I feel like SSD prices come down pretty good, though, right? Over time?
They
No?
used to.
Oh, well, yeah.
Which is one of the
Good point.
reasons why I think one of the things I wrote down on paper for this year was that prices were not going to get better until 2019.
And how do we determine the answer for that? Because I feel like the prices have gotten better.
That
They've been
yeah,
stagnant.
yeah. I like how Brad and I both are like,
Well, it's okay. She already ground up her paper and she's steeping it in that hot water right now. So
You should see it steam up my glasses a moment ago.
Why?
So
Go ahead.
for comparison, we're saying the 970 Pro is $330 for 500 gigs. The Western Digital Black 3D NVMe drive is $230 for 500 gigs. So $100 cheaper for
Same.
85 to 90% of the performance.
So what are you giving up though? Like warranty length maybe? Is it like a shorter warranty or?
Yeah, I
And
believe the
spinning
warranty is a
platter.
little shorter. There definitely is. There are some things where the Samsung 970 Pro is faster. I don't know if it really applies that much to what people do on their desktop. I'm trying to figure out paper not because
I
He's
track
distracted.
prices. I track prices, Gordon.
I'm tracking it right now.
Yeah, don't talk to Elaine about prices. She obviously knows prices.
Well, see, it's too new. The WD Black hasn't changed at all because it just came out.
Yeah.
John Malkovich on
The,
YouTube says Samsung warranties suck.
Do they?
Why? They're 5 years long.
Yeah.
Samsung warranties are pretty good. They're 5 years, including this is the first time the 970 Evo. This is the first time the Evo drive has a 5-year warranty that matches the Pro. And Samsung's Magician SSD management software is like best in class. So there are some advantages to going with the Samsung hardware.
All right, so wait.
Evo used to be 3 years.
I forget if it was 3 or 4, but it wasn't 5.
960 Pro, 1 terabyte, previous generation, 1 terabyte. Right now, Camel.
Yeah, I'm looking at that chart.
615,
It looks like
630.
this.
Well, it dropped down to 580 in August, and it crept back up, and it's kind of like, it's hard to say. It's kind of trending back up, but it seems to be bouncing around quite a bit, though.
It's been bouncing, but pretty much on average holding stagnant, as Brad said.
Average is 619. Lowest is 577. So, of course, one terabyte's pretty that has always been an expensive drive, though.
The good news is, compared to last year, prices aren't going up necessarily anymore.
Yes.
They're just stuck at their high level.
Yep.
It's something
like
we can
graphics
celebrate.
cards.
Yeah, we can celebrate the fact that prices haven't gone higher. You know, yay.
Yeah. Well, wait, let's more common 1 terabyte. Okay, 1 terabyte 960 Evo, which has kind of been the. So it was 480 for a long time. Actually came out at 480, and now it's down to 450. So yeah,
It's not really changing.
it
that
never
much.
really dropped much at all. That's actually quite a surprise, I got to say.
No, I usually base the trend off of the sale prices, because sale prices, as they start to drop, generally indicate what the non-sale prices will do as well.
Yeah.
If they're going to start to move.
Well, then, I mean, because I got to say, I mean, as much as we're here to talk about the, hey, Samsung awesome drive, but, you know, that WD Black is a pretty damn good deal, right? It's 1
Yes.
terabyte is,
So what are we talking in terms of read writes?
oh, God, I have to pull the chart up.
Let's get some stats,
Yeah, we need to print off some
some charts.
charts and graphs. People love charts and graphs, Gordon.
Yeah, they do love them. They want them on paper, too.
Especially John.
Yeah, I don't understand it because people say, oh, I want to see it on paper. Then people say, like, oh, we don't want to see it on paper.
Quit wasting paper.
Yeah. No, it's we recycle the paper, though.
Killing trees.
I'm supporting.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Samsung's 9 NVMe SSDs have been the best NVMe SSDs since they've come out, basically.
Right.
But in our best SSD roundup, we now say, hey, the WD Black actually surpassed it because the performance is right in the ballpark and it's so much cheaper.
Yeah. So let's look at random writes 4K queue depth of 8 threads. And this is where you really see the 970 Pro do really well at about 1.5 gigs a second. The WD Black NVMe, though, not looking too shabby at about 1.4, so not that far behind, honestly. And then when you go to 970 Evo, which is, you know, a TLC, 3D TLC drive, it's about 1 gig. So you're looking at 1.5 versus 1 gig, 4K writes. Very, you know, 4K does matter a lot, honestly.
Big jump between the two series.
Yeah, of course, you know, the one issue, though, that is high queue depth. And, you know, we hear all the Intel marketing. Intel says, you know, low queue depth is where it really matters. And random read, it's pretty much, it's a wash. With 1 thread, 1 queue, Crystal Disk Mark 6. 970 Pro is 55, which is dead even with the 970 Evo. And then the WD NVMe drive is down there at 39. So an Optane, of course, would kill these things in random reads. But it'd be way too tiny. And then, of course,
That's
go ahead.
Optane's only available in full-sized PCIe drives. They're not available in NVMe, are they?
Yeah, they come in by 2 NVMe drives. So the P was it? I can't remember. P800, the one that just came out recently. And it was actually kind of aimed at enthusiast market at about 120, 100.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
it was
forgot
like
about that one.
It
I
was
was thinking of the
really.
enthusiast
It
one.
was like, wow, this is really low density. Where are you trying to? It's basically the equivalent of coming out with the 74 gig, you know, WD Rapture drive. So back in the day, that was like, wow, that's awesome. It's 74 gigs though, right? And I think it was like 36. I think were the first 10K drives. And, you know, 10K drives were a big deal for a while. And I think Intel's like, well, you run 2 of these in RAID 0, it's, you know, it'll smoke everything out there, which I accept. I believe that, but I'm not going for that capacity for most people. And then also sequential reads, it's pretty much a wash. Queue depth of 32, 1 thread. Crystal Disk Mark 6 again. 970 Evo 3.5, 970 Pro 3.5, pretty much dead even, and the WD Black 3.4 gigs second, pretty much.
They're
Who
all
cares?
pretty close.
Where you really see the difference is in writes, sequential writes using high Q depth. That Pro with all the different controllers, the multiple controllers hitting in parallel, 2.7 gigs, right? WD Black is 2.3 gigs, and the 970 Evo, a lot more economical, a lot fewer channels, 1.2 gigs a second. So,
I mean, but the hard drive that's not bad though. I mean, what do you say? What was the difference?
For what?
For the two between the Pro and the
Evo? Yeah. For sequential reads, which is what you might do. A lot of people, it's pretty much, it's a wash. I mean, that's one of the issues I do think with a lot of SSD testing is it is a little, I mean, I swear to God, if you sat someone down and they had an NVMe drive as 970 Pro and, a SATA drive, you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference.
Right? Yeah, unless you're moving lots of files.
Right. You would definitely be able to tell there. So, one of the tests Jacoby does is he uses a RAM drive and he copies those from the RAM drive. One is a folder full of files, the other one's a single large VHD. So,
Sai says, he always looks at price over performance. He would go with the WD drive.
Yeah, I mean that's the hard sell, right? I mean, what you're getting out of this, really hard to.
If you wanted to bump over something at the Evo level, but you didn't want to pay for the Samsung 970 Pro, it's a really great compromise, nice in between option.
Yeah, and I think
at this point.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think at this point that Pro is finally becoming the appropriate name for these, because I think the reason you would want to get this is if that last 10% of difference makes such a huge difference to your workloads that it's worth spending the extra $100 for. Yeah,
it's true. I don't bet for most people though, probably not. Most people would be really happy with the Evo or the WD Black drive. So. It is going to be a challenge for SSD vendors at this point because even the really cheap and bad low end drives are performing pretty well, I got to say.
Your $35 specials?
Well, not $35, but you're getting
right along with your cardboard power supplies.
Yeah, I mean for a pro, I guess. Yeah, like Brad says, that makes a lot of sense. If you're a pro, yeah, you can justify it, but for most people, no, they're just not going to do it. So. I do wonder where the SSD drive industry is going to go at that point. So, where do they go up to a buy 8 interface? What are we going to do? Or does it just come down to a capacity war? And a lot of the benchmarks, a lot of the tests, fairly synthetic. Your average person is probably not going to see a difference at all.
Right, but I have to wonder, is this really meant for your average person, or is it actually more of a budget option for business enterprise application?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would think they just have a very high-end Halo product that, people like Adam, people who are content creators might want. But everybody else, go cheap.
That's what the Evo line is for.
Yeah, that's what the Evo. And, these other TLC drives, they're really not bad. Although I got to say, I have some really bad ones, though. We just have some bulk SSDs that I store all the games on when I do CPU benchmarking, and they are...
Yeah, but they're old at this point, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you count, 18 months old or 14 months, a year and a half ago, but, oh man, they are just hard drive slow. They really are. I mean, but now they're actually reasonably fast, I think, so just sucky.
I think it still lingers because I was looking at Newegg had some incredible deals on some SSDs that shall remain nameless because I haven't tested them. But it was 100. It was a standard SATA drive, but it was $36 for 128 gigabytes or something like that.
Jeez.
Wow. And I was looking at it, and all of the reviews said this says it's an SSD, but it does not perform like an SSD. So it's still something to watch out for, even though a lot of the big name ones have conquered the issue that initially came out with TLC drives. It's still out there if you're not being careful.
Yeah. You should see the trick when you're just doing a file copy. I mean, after maybe the first 1 gig or 500 megs, then it drops down to write speeds of like 70 megs a second.
Wow.
It's
Jeez.
really not pretty. So
Oh,
it's actually kind of fun to watch it like crater off of it.
real fun. Yeah.
Yeah, really, especially when you're
Real
copying
fun.
over, 400 gigs worth of Steam games. That is really fun. Do we have any more lingering SSD questions?
No. John Malkovich had clarified that he doesn't like Samsung warranties because refurb after 90 days. Or no, replacement within 90 days, and then after that it's a refurb for 5 years. So he's not a fan.
Oh, I'm actually surprised that you get a replacement in 90 days because you know how it is with a lot of these companies now. You can buy a brand new phone, have a problem 1 month in, they will give you a refurb, right? I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
and that's $1,000 phone, right?
Yeah.
They'd be like, hey, yeah, here you go. This iPhone's got like cheddar cheese jammed in it. So it doesn't matter. Refurb, here you go. Yeah, it really does suck. So that's not that bad.
Well, do we want to move to Brad's adventures in FreeSync 2?
Yes, I do. I want to hear because I'm all about FreeSync 2 and the state of HDR. Brad is going to catch us up on that.
Yeah, so AMD contacted me recently and said, hey, FreeSync 2 monitors are out now. We have this Samsung CHG70 gaming monitor that we want you to try out. So, I was trying it out. It's a big 32-inch monitor, curved, 2560 by 1440, kind of 1 millisecond response time. It's fast. It gets kind of iffy because it's a VA panel. But basically, it's the best monitor I've ever used. And I use a bunch of monitors. So I replaced a 4K G-Sync panel to use this. So,
damn.
I have a bunch of monitors around the office. It's the best one I've used. It's great. The interesting about it is that it's my first chance outside of trade shows to try an HDR PC panel, and my first time to try a FreeSync 2 monitor, which is AMD's higher tier version of FreeSync that adds some extra goodies, like it mandates low frame rate compensation, which means basically if you dip below the FreeSync range, it'll still look silky smooth, just like G-Sync does. That's not a requirement in standard FreeSync, but it is in FreeSync 2. And it changes the way the monitor reacts when you activate HDR content. And that was actually the most interesting takeaway to me from this whole experience. Not so much the monitor itself, but the state of PC HDR. Because now we see HDR panels starting to come out, and doing these tests, HDR blows me away, but it is so wonky in Windows right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. To even see, like, if you want to go watch a Netflix video or if you want to go watch a YouTube video, first you have to, like, scramble around to try and find HDR content to begin with. It's not very clear. There's not a whole lot of it. And in order to actually see it in HDR, it won't automatically boot into HDR. If you press play on it, even though you're using the HDR monitor, it'll show up in standard dynamic range. You actually have to go into the Windows display settings, activate a button that says enable HDR colors, and then the whole rest of the monitor goes like a nasty grayish light tone. But the HDR content looks great.
Perfect.
Is that a one-time thing, or do you have to do that every time you load HDR content?
Every time you go, before you turn on the HDR video, you have to go turn on the HDR. The screen goes gray. You boot up your video. It's bright and colorful and wonderful. I mean, it really does. Like, it blows my mind looking at it. It's great. And this particular panel, I'm using it right now, is only 600 nits of brightness, which doesn't hit the 1,000 nits of brightness that you're supposed to hit for HDR10, but it's still great contrast ratios, very bright. It's a great picture. But when you're done viewing an HDR video, you have to go back into the display settings, turn it back off, or otherwise Windows stays ugly and gray.
So it's actually in Windows. This is not a graphics card level switch.
No, HDR is not. No, you gotta muck around with Windows in order to get HDR content.
Wow.
It's a mess. FreeSync 2 though, it makes it so that monitors will detect when games are running in HDR, And then when you boot up that game with HDR activated, it'll automatically switch the monitor to HDR. So it takes care of the problem for games. So after I go into Far Cry 5, Destiny 2, other games I was playing, and I activated HDR, if I came out of the game, it would revert back to standard, Windows color space, the standard desktop like you expect it. But when you boot the game back up, the screen will flicker, it'll restart in HDR mode, and you'd never have to worry about playing with the Windows settings, which is great compared to what you have to do for videos.
How does Far Cry 5 look with HDR? Because that's one of the games I can think of. Did you try that?
Yeah, it looks amazing. It looks most amazing. All HDR content, in my opinion, looks most amazing when you can find like big outdoor vistas, or if you can find like a dark area punctuated by bits of light.
Mm-hmm.
And it just like this screen has the Samsung CHG 70 has a very, very like great contrast ratios, bright colors out of the box, and HDR it just like kicks it up a notch, and it's outstanding.
Brad, do you have an HD TV at home? Or I'm sorry, an HDR TV.
I do not. This does not get. This panel is VESA Display HDR 600 certified, so VESA has different display HDR ratings now. So this hits about 600 nits. That's what it's certified for. HDR TVs tend to hit 1,000, 1,500 nits. So they amp up the contrast ratio that much more.
Yeah,
so
because
it's a little bit more subdued.
I obviously haven't used a monitor with HDR, but I recently got a HDR TV, and I was using the the Shield TV, NVIDIA Shield TV, and tried streaming some HDR content, like Resident Evil 7, I think was the last one I tried, and yeah, it actually worked pretty good on the TV after some other problems. But yeah, it's interesting to see like it struggles so hard on the PC when the TV based content, Netflix and even consoles, it actually runs pretty well.
What sucks is that it is still obviously the young and wonky days in Windows, but a bunch of this stuff is available for television sets. Like Amazon streams in HDR, but you can't on the PC. That's only available to the set-top boxes and stuff. It's the same with Microsoft games.
Yeah.
Microsoft first-party titles are Xbox Play Anywhere. So Sea of Thieves, Gears of War, etc., they all support HDR because the Xbox One X supports HDR. But it didn't show up in the Windows versions of those games, which is a major bummer because Sea of Thieves would look awesome at night with HDR enabled.
Do you think that's a problem with the Windows Store, or why do you think they're not doing that?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's because PC HDR is still so early, and a lot of the problems just come from the fact that Windows doesn't handle it well. So maybe Microsoft doesn't want to draw attention to that. Who knows?
It's a mess right now.
Yeah, it sounds like sounds to me like the standard issue content copy protection stuff that we run into.
Yeah.
I would not expect it to show up in HDR, but when I think about it, it's the same issue with just playing Blu-ray HDR on PC. I mean, it's like the only way you can play it is to have somebody show up in an armored car, verify that you are not pirating it, and then you can watch it. It's pretty insane on the PC. It's getting a little better, but not that much.
So some of those same concerns are the reason why it's such a pain on PC. You got to have specific, HDCP compliant, ports, etc.
I think when we looked into
certain browsers.
Yeah, when we looked into that last year, it was like what 2 or 3 motherboards that could support it.
Yeah,
and it had to be like Core i5 or above Kaby Lake parts, and it's just.
Yeah, motherboard had to support it, and they had to have Intel SGX or something like that, and it was really like a massive checklist. And I'm not kidding you. You might as well just have somebody show up with a suitcase that's like handcuffed to their hand, and then they unlock it, and you could pull out and you could play it, and then when you're done, you put it back in, and it's. But is it worth it though? I guess is it really worth it?
It depends on the price, because the thing is, most of the HDR monitors that have been released so far have been $1,000 ish. Like a lot of the high end ones, because they've been for professional uses, for people who are creating content that need perfect imagery, whatnot. This is a big, fast, gorgeous monitor, all by itself. Like even if it didn't have HDR, I don't think $600 would be necessarily outrageous for this monitor. Having HDR also included with this particular monitor is like a cherry on top, I kind of consider it. And I think this specific monitor, it's worth it. Because when you do get HDR working, it's usually amazing, depending on how the game handles it.
Although I got to say, one of the problems with the entire PC community is the very last thing you ever upgrade for, it feels like 98% of all PC users, is the monitor. I mean, a lot of us are using monitors that are ancient, right? I mean, we're talking like 7-8 years old and they work fine. So how the hell do you justify going out and blowing $1,000 on this thing? I just
this is $600
or $600.
That's not bad, actually.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I mean,
I thought it'd be way
because
more.
a HDR TV, I just looked it up right now. You get a Vizio 55-inch TV, 4K with HDR support, $600 on sale.
I mean, I got that TCL that everyone was raving about, and yeah, it was around $600.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
TVs
I think
are a
this
different
particular
thing.
monitor is great.
Yeah.
A lot of monitors are going for $1,000, unless you have a specific like, hey, I could use this for work. I don't know if I'd necessarily spend that, but $600 that's what you'd pay for a G-Sync monitor. And basically, FreeSync 2 brings FreeSync into correlation with how G-Sync behaves on high and low frame rates.
And it's not free though, right? FreeSync 2, one of the things I think they were saying would not be free.
They never actually clarified that, but I
Really?
expect their certification costs
Huh.
because they have certain things they need to hit to make it a FreeSync 2 monitor, low latency, at least twice the sRGB color gamut, I believe. So, yeah. And the interesting thing is it's almost the end of April. NVIDIA's rival G-Sync HDR monitors are expected to land now or soon. They were expected this quarter after being delayed forever since the beginning of last year. I was kind of thinking about those while I was reviewing this because I really, really like this monitor. It's the best monitor I've ever used. I've used a bunch of monitors. But when I was trying G-Sync HDR at CES demos, like when an explosion went off, it was so bright because that does hit at least 1,000 nits brightness that I physically like put my hand over my eyes and turned away. And I never had that experience with this monitor. But as I sat there and thought about it, I'm like, I'm not sure if that's necessarily a good or a bad thing. Because if I'm sitting here playing Far Cry, an explosion goes off and it makes me like shield my eyes and drop the controller and turn away. I'm not sure if that'll be good. So I'll be interested to see how G-Sync HDR panels
Hold up.
behave. They come out.
Brad, I'm sorry. I got to stop you there. You just said you were playing with a controller. I'm sorry. What?
No shame. Yeah, I play controller.
What game?
That's the beauty of the PC.
I don't know.
I was playing Sea of Thieves with a controller. Or no,
I know. I do too. I'm just teasing.
He's
I
just
didn't drop the controller. I was using that as an example because I haven't actually used a G-Sync HDR outside of trade shows. So.
So let's. You know what I want to know is what sort of, assume we're all in the same boat, which is we're all using a 19 by 19 by 10 or 19 by 12 panel that we got for free from the recycle bin from work.
I bought a new one last year. So
Well, you already see that you're stuck. You will be using that probably until your kids are 12. You don't even have kids yet. You'll be using that forever. But what I want to know is what's everybody's. You're going out to look for a new monitor today. What's on your must-have list? FreeSync 2 or G-Sync? Let's just sort of assume. Well, yeah, that is kind of a problem, though, right?
See, this is what bums me out about FreeSync and G-Sync because variable refresh rate technology is like so good. Once you've used it, you don't want to go back.
Yep.
But it sucks that it not only locks you into your monitor for 10 years, but because you have that monitor, you're locked into Radeon or GeForce for 10 years. It sucks that it's not standardized.
Okay, so let me start at the other end of this. What does everybody have to have for the refresh rate? 120, 144, 240, or 60? Everybody's got any needs?
I mean, I'm
I'd
talking
be
about
playing-
us
Yeah.
specifically.
If you're going out to shop for a panel right now, do you have to have a 60, a 120, or a standard refresh or high refresh? I got to have high refresh. If I'm going out to buy a new monitor, high refresh. Yeah.
I've been using 4K monitors, so I've been stuck at 60 for about the past year and a half. And now that I've gone back to this and I'm 144 again, I really love, I think 1440 resolution, 144 hertz is the sweet spot.
Right. Yeah, I gotta say,
120
I
hertz.
couldn't. For me, that's a must-have. High refresh. Okay, number 2, panel technology. Crappy ass TN, VA, or anyone.
I don't think anyone likes TN.
TN,
So-
if you're gonna be like
I mean,
a MLG
right.
Counter-Strike pro, man,
You need
TN
that-
is
yeah.
the go-to.
Do I look like I have those reflexes? I don't care. I'm like, forget it. I don't care, but I want IPS. I want IPS panel.
I would go with
I think so,
IPS.
right? So
IPS
IPS,
or
high
PA?
refresh.
I need 4K more than I need high refresh.
Really?
For what I do.
Yeah, as I was
Yeah.
actually going to say the same. We're going back to point number 1. I actually am like Brad. I'm stuck at 60 because I want 4K.
So the marketing has worked on you folks, huh?
No,
No,
it's
I have-
because I actually do work at home and having that much more real estate to see your Slack conversations.
4K
is so
is better.
helpful.
I understand. 4K is better.
I mean, when I need to edit photos or I need to do a bunch of video editing, I need 4K. It's I can't go back.
I'm cheating because I have this 1440p Samsung monitor set up right now, but my second monitor is 4K. So
That is a little bit cheating.
Damn.
It's- yeah, it's a
nice.
little
Or you
cheating.
can say that's just high rolling.
But I mean, I got to say, if you had to pick, though, would you take? Would you
yes,
don't, right?
1440p, 144 hertz, because I don't do
Definitely,
photo
definitely.
editing or
4K is
anything
not
like
worth
that.
it, no.
I play games.
Yeah, unless I will be honest. If I could do 4K on a 32 or 36 inch panel, that's a little different because now it's big enough to support that resolution. But anything less than that to me, it just seems like a
I
waste.
mean, there are 30-inch 4K monitors.
Yeah, not too many though, but like 32. I mean, it has to be a really big panel. But then I
Most
don't know.
4K are 28 inches that I've seen.
Yeah, 27, 28.
Yeah, but I gotta say, I would definitely take high refresh over 4K no matter what. That's how I'd prioritize it. Okay, we already have panel type. Okay, aspect ratio. Wide aspect ratio, 16 by 10,
Ooh. So, okay.
16:9,
The
3:2.
thing
What do you
that
guys
I
want?
identified most within your review, Brad, was you talking about that curved monitor. Because one of my pet peeves is curved TVs. But I actually love curved monitors because, as you said, it's actually very immersive when you're sitting that close to it. It kind of just wraps around like the edges of your peripheral vision.
It feels like I'm in the studio right now, actually.
Yeah, and I gotta say, wide aspect ratios that are flat hurt my eyes.
Yeah, that's weird. I have one at my desk right now that I've been using.
They hurt your
And
eyes.
it's just, there's like, when you get to the very edges of it, there's just kind of, my eyes don't like it because it's not expecting something that flat for like to extend that long.
Yeah, and I just did a comparison between curved and flat, and it was painful. And I had a bunch of other people try it too, but you couldn't explain it. But your eyeballs would actually focus correctly.
Yes.
Whereas they feel like it's forced
Yeah.
out a little bit. So
Yeah.
Okay. So
Samsung actually offers like almost an alternative to this CHG70. That's an ultra wide 49-inch curved display. So
Ooh.
it's like huge and giant.
49.
It's only 1080p going up and
Oof.
down. It's basically the equivalent of 2 or 3 1080p panels glued side by side, just one giant monitor that supports HDR. So
That's funny.
TN, I'm guessing, or not a.
no, it's the same as this one. It's a VA panel.
Oh.
It's,
VA, some
not
VAs
bad.
can be pretty good.
This one's good.
But wide aspect ratio, nobody cares for it. Oop.
I like it. I'm indifferent.
I've actually never used it, so
Really?
I'd like to use it at some point. But the chat seems to be pretty on board with wide aspect ratio. So
Yeah.
I would be more on board if more games supported it directly, like natively. It's getting a lot better, but it's still not 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm just surprised. You just assume, but I guess some of the UI can get a little wacky from it. And I guess it is a little bit of a cheat too. And, it's like doing an FOV change.
That shouldn't matter on PC.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter. That's right. Everybody's cheating anyway, right? So we don't. So it's kind of mixed. Wide aspect ratio, give or take.
I think all of us it sounds like we're indifferent, where it's like we'll take a good monitor regardless of the aspect ratio.
Yeah. So
I don't like 4:3 anymore.
Oh,
I don't like the standard Surface size or iPad size, iPad ratio.
you know the
I don't
thing
like-
is though, I actually still, so confession time, you know how Gordon was saying earlier that, we all hang on to our monitors forever. I still have a CRT on my desk.
oh Jesus!
And it's a
At
4:3
home?
aspect ratio. And the reason they have it is because I still have like DVDs and video that I took like ages ago that are in
Look at
that
Gordon's
aspect
face.
ratio. And it drives me less crazy to have it like properly fill the screen.
I love
Ooh.
it. Should hook up an old Nintendo to it too.
I might have already.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, all CRTs belong in your garage or basement. That's my feeling. And I have one in
my
my
God.
basement.
Your face, Gordon.
Yeah.
No,
Gordon's
I mean,
face
come
is
on. It's like
priceless.
actually on your desk. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just like
It
I
lives
didn't-
alongside the others. It's fine.
Yeah, you know, that's like
Her desk has to hold up at least 300 pounds of weight.
Although I will say, I swear to God, we've all forgotten. But if you actually play on a CRT and then you play on even a really, really good LCD panel, you will be blown away by the response. I mean, it is just like
I can imagine.
it'll make you go like, oh, we've really forgotten just what CRTs.
Yeah,
That
and
they
like
are
the
better at
colors,
some
the
things.
colors are pretty good too. That's one of the reasons I also held on to it for a while.
The response, I mean, the lag is just like zero compared to even really good LCDs, in my opinion. It's been a while.
Rusty on YouTube says, "Dear Lord, a CRT? Are we back in the 90s?"
Yeah, with your
Actually, it's 2005, I think. That's
WD
the vintage
Raptor
of this
10K
one.
drives and your CRT panels. Do a little.
It wasn't that long ago that we were all
2001
still using those
computing.
at work.
So okay, we got aspect ratio. I actually still run 16:10 on a 30-inch, so it is actually wide angle. It's also, I mean, it's wide aspect ratio and also taller, so that's why I'm okay with it. And the last thing, of course, G-Sync or FreeSync.
Ooh.
Depends on what card you have.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
No.
problem with it being proprietary.
I don't think it works that way, Brad. I don't think it's. I think if you were going out to shop and you found your perfect 144, whatever aspect ratio, whatever curve you want, and then you go like, am I betting on AMD being in front or NVIDIA being in front of graphics? And I'm making a really big investment. I'm going to be using this damn thing for like 7 or 10 years.
So I'm hedging. I'm in the market to get a 4K monitor. I haven't bought it yet, but that's my next purchase for the year. And I'm actually going to be hedging my bets towards FreeSync because my reasoning for that is I don't.
Vega was just so good. That's why. Yeah.
Shh, you. My reasoning is that I don't game as much on PC, and I'm fine with, the 290X I still have right now. So it'll support that for the short term and for the long term. I don't think I'd ever pay the premium for a G-Sync monitor anyway. So if I decided to go with an NVIDIA card, it's not like I'm losing something in the process. I only have something to gain if I stay with AMD.
So basically, you don't even care. You might as well. It doesn't even have to have variable refresh because it just ain't gonna. I don't like. Honestly, I got to be honest. If I'm honest, I'm gonna go out and get a G-Sync monitor, right? Because I can read the way the winds are going. This is not. We're not gonna suddenly all switch over to Radeon anytime soon here. I mean, unless it changes. But if you had to be like, what am I gonna get? Compatible with a high refresh. It's going to be G-Sync, right?
Well, there's a lot of people these days that have Polaris cards, so I wouldn't write them off.
And these days, I mean, Vega really does do a great job at 1440p. And 1440p is where you're going to find those high refresh rate panels.
Yeah, but
So-
I think as a practical, like you really got to be honest with the market and the way NVIDIA's positioning, and like they could just bust out with
Sure.
Volta, whatever it's called,
Sure.
code name,
Yeah.
and
But
you'll be like, oh my god, this thing is
But
X
man,
amount faster.
Yeah.
that premium you're paying for G-Sync, though.
Yeah, but basically you get a variable refresh monitor that works with the high-end graphics card you're probably going to be running, or you got nothing at all. You might as well just buy no variable refresh, right?
The thing is, yes, you do pay a premium for G-Sync, but it does stuff that FreeSync doesn't, like the low frame rate compensation. Once you get a fancier FreeSync monitor that adds in those optional features, the prices tend to creep pretty close to the G-Sync levels.
Yeah. And I got to say, I don't know when Navi's going to come out, but, all indications are that, yeah, NVIDIA is going to be in front again for a while for graphics, right? So
I have to agree with Gordon. Yeah, at this point, I haven't seen a compelling reason to sneak over to AMD cards, so I would
Right.
just invest personally.
Well, if you're talking about ultra high end,
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. In the short term, at least. Because it doesn't sound like there's going to be a Radeon card this year. And it sounds like there's going to be a GeForce refresh.
yeah.
So,
But it'll start at the high end, and then it'll just trickle down
but I mean,
mid range
like
and low
this,
end. And,
like this generation, NVIDIA is the clear winner. But AMD has been constantly competitive on graphics up until pretty much Vega.
I don't know about
Yeah,
that.
it seems a little short-sighted.
Like the Fury X, people dump on the original Fury X.
Like Gordon.
It came out and was right there with the 980 Ti for the exact same price. It was just a little bit slower.
Yeah, except that nobody could buy the Fury X card was the problem. Right?
Yeah, that's
That's the problem. To be able to buy them, and the prices of GeForce cards are pretty artificial because they have no competition. But we do know if NVIDIA wanted to, they could be highly competitive with the prices.
Well, and the driver support too, right? I mean, that's always been the other big thing is that the Radeon
well,
drivers
no, they've
have
caught
taken a
up.
while. I know they caught it now, you know, but
Yeah.
in the past, that's always been like, eh.
But you really think that in this case, past performance is going to be an indicator of future performance? Because I don't think that's true.
True. Well, I mean,
AMD drivers have kicked ass for about 2 years now
Yeah.
since they made it Radeon Technologies Group.
Yeah.
Yeah. which is a bummer that, you know, Vega came out like it did, because, you know, you want to have both in lockstep. And actually, Ruru2 over on YouTube thinks that the Infinity Fabric tech will come into the next gen cards, and hopefully, you know, maybe that'll save it.
I'm very interested. That's what I'm curious to see, because I eased that question in there. I didn't go too far when we had Jim Anderson on the other day, whether or not the multi-module design Horizon could apply the graphics. And he said, yeah, definitely. 100% could. So
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and you know, in fact, the APU is actually built on an Infinity Fabric too, so it's all connected on the IF stuff. So cool stuff. Doesn't really affect my G-Sync panel though. So
But I'm just saying, Gordon, I just think it's a little short-sighted because we're talking basically about the equivalent of almost like, I don't know, a car purchase, right? Most people
Yeah.
have either one of two philosophies. Either they're the type of people who are going to like lease a car because they want to constantly have something new. So they're like buying and selling essentially, you know, and then you have other people who are just going to buy that one car that's going to last until it's run into the dirt. And so if you're buying a monitor with that kind of perspective, sure, for the next year or so, NVIDIA will be ahead. But as Brad points out, they've always been kind of like going back and forth. It's not like on the CPU side where there's just that really long dry spell on AMD's part.
I guess I disagree, because when I look at there is sort of like some competition at the mid-range, mid to, you know, mid-tier range. Has been competition, but at the top end, NVIDIA has ruled the roost. They come out with cards at will when they want to, and I just don't see that changing anytime soon, you know. And if I'm going to make an investment in a monitor I'm going to use for 10 years, I mean, it's like saying I'm going to buy this car that has an electronic system that works with Windows Phone, because I know it's going to come back, right?
It's not the same.
I mean, it's not the same.
It's not the
It's
same.
not the same. It's like choosing between
know, that's
Apple
really
and
unfair.
Android auto stuff.
I disagree, though. I think that's very different. Because clearly for gaming, I mean, NVIDIA has 70% of the market.
I'm not
so-
saying they don't. I'm just saying that I don't think it's just an automatic lock for like G-Sync being the choice.
I think what's going to happen is people are going to go out and they're going to buy a FreeSync monitor, and they're going to run GeForce card, and they'll just never know, because they'll never be able to turn it on. And that's what the reality is. But if you really had the chance to hit all I could have an IPS 144, you know, wide aspect ratio.
I mean, sure, if money's not an issue,
G-Sync
we would
or
all buy
FreeSync too.
Teslas.
Reality is that G-Sync is probably going to be the better investment if I care about variable refresh, right? I mean, that's just reality. So I would love to
at
see
the
that.
ultra high end, maybe, but I don't agree with you in general.
In general.
Like
Yeah.
like the
Faces on the
390X and the 290X were right there with NVIDIA's top end cards at the time.
I couldn't hear you, Brad, over the sounds of my 290X.
That's true. Once you put a cooler on it, it was all right though.
Hey, it keeps me warm in the winter.
I would be afraid. You know what? You could probably use a 290X's fans as a food processor, because I mean it was like 12,000 RPM.
Perfect.
Those things are. I'm burning all the time. Sorry, I'm burning all the time.
Well,
I got a few-
real quick before we move on to the next one, any updates on FreeSync 2 with Xbox? I know somebody's looking at that. I think Rusty had asked.
I mean, FreeSync. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to just talk about generally FreeSync support is enabled now, but
Yeah.
in terms of
Are we
FreeSync,
doing anything around it?
I am trying to source a FreeSync monitor in the office, and once I do, yes, we will try to do something with that.
Okay, that's all.
You can get a cheap one for like $100.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of asking if we could just obtain one.
Yeah, but isn't that sort of like isn't FreeSync on a console like my 99 Honda Accord's speedometer that says 120 miles an
If
hour?
you say
moving to
that,
the next
Phil
topic.
Gordon,
It'll hit
you're-
120 miles
dude,
an
you're-
hour.
You're dissing APUs right now.
140
You
mile
are-
an hour. The
You are
new one.
dissing the Ryzen APUs right now.
140 miles an hour in my Honda
Oh,
Accord.
I should add though that I think the FreeSync support is still in like beta right now. It's only to like Xbox insiders, but
okay.
I don't think it's been released like for the general public just yet. But it's out there.
And I think that's limited to FreeSync 1. I don't think FreeSync 2, which deals more specifically with HDR and with how
Right.
monitors behave and stuff.
Oh, in
I'm not
terms
sure
of
if that's
rollout, yeah, I don't know if they've rolled out the FreeSync 2 support, but they did say they were gonna at some point.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Based on conversations, I think that they had at E3 or Gamescom last year, but I'll have to go back and double check that.
Are there any FreeSync TVs?
No.
Oh,
No.
Okay.
No. They're doing a lot of support right now on Xbox One specific to like PC support. They just unveiled the whole like 120 hertz support, which I can't wrap my brain around, but that's a whole different conversation.
Like I said, speedometer, 120 miles an hour. Makes you feel better for some reason.
I think that would be good for videos. That would be my guess. Like even if games are frame rate capped at 30 or 60 frames per second on a console, videos could probably run faster.
Yeah, I guess, but then it just looks weird, you know. High frame rate videos are just odd, unless they're specifically for something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's move it
Bundle
on.
time.
Last thing, so
Yeah.
of course, see, I am pro AMD. I'm about to tell you about this great deal AMD has.
Got this great deal for you.
Got a good
Oh,
deal
boy.
for you. AMD, of course, realizing that miners are creating issues for its customers, so they have now come up with the Combat Crate.
Combat Crate!
Combat Crate concept that's actually on Amazon.com. You go to PC World, read the story today, but basically you get a B350 board, right?
Yep,
a Ryzen
B350
5
Tomahawk.
1600. This is an MSI package, and an MSI RX 580 with 8 gigs of RAM.
Yeah,
For-
that's pretty nice.
The good news is it's $550. I guess when it came out on Monday, it was $600, and which was actually more expensive than buying all the parts alone. And now
Really?
they just cut the it was like $580 if you just bought all the parts separately on Amazon.
If you went price shopping for it, yeah, because on other sites the graphics card was more expensive.
Yeah.
It was like on the line.
But even on Amazon, assuming you were buying the Combat Crate there for $600, those 3 parts that were sold to you would be $580. AMD has since cut the price of it to $550. It looks like, which is like, hey, $550 versus $580, and then as Brad says, you know, if you're going to go on Newegg, $365 for that RX 580 card, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Gosh.
insane.
Yep,
Nice.
by itself. So 365 for the RX 580 by itself.
Yeah.
But this whole thing is $550, and that includes a 6-core, 12-thread processor and a motherboard that can overclock.
And by the way, does it bug you guys and gals that it is a Ryzen 5 1600 though?
No.
Instead of a second gen?
because
part?
I think it's still appropriately priced to what that part is.
Yeah.
And
You're
it's
not
still
gonna-
a 6-core friggin' machine.
You're not going to be like the internet and say, this is just a last year's parts you're just trying to bundle up and sell to me.
But if you're getting a deal when you're being sold last year's part, I don't think you have grounds to complain.
Yeah.
Very true.
Do you think it actually will work to stop miners?
No.
They would maybe, because it is last year's part, because there probably wouldn't be a hot resale market for 1600 at this point that the
That's a good
2600
point.
is out.
That's
Good
true.
point.
So
Yeah. I still will never understand that whole miner mentality. I'm going to get this video card. I'm going to make $85,000 off of it, but it's going to stop me from buying it because I have to pay $100 for the CPU bundle.
it's really starting to die down too.
Yeah.
Like it's starting to come back to reality a bit, even though it's still not there yet.
Yeah.
So if a miner did buy that to try to sell it, I think they'd be really making a bad investment there.
I'm just bummed that they didn't partner with Mortal Kombat, and call it a Combat Crate with K's,
Is that in the game?
Yeah, Mortal Kombat is spelled with a K or
Yeah.
the C. Yeah.
Isn't it weird that K was a thing for a while and now like Z is a thing? We're just moving between letters in the alphabet.
I was just thinking though. So I think what's really good about this
Combat
is
Crates with a Z.
if the
and
prices
Ks.
go up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they still fluctuate.
If the prices go up again, I mean, the RX 580 was $460 a month ago.
Ooh.
So
It's like the
Yeah.
hardware equivalent of a hedge.
Or I kind of like what I'm going to expect. People don't know this. Jim Anderson was here. He told me after the interview was over.
Oh, don't spill the secrets.
The actual idea with the combat crate, I'm making all of this up. I'm just lying, by the way, is that eventually they will actually get a C-130 and they will fly over areas where gamers are and they will parachute these video cards packages in. And then as a gamer, you go like, oh my God, there's a combat crate up on that hill. And you'll be running and the other people will be running up there. And
then another battle royale will start.
Another battle royale because it's the only way you're going to get that GPU if they go back up again. Right? A little parachute just kind of.
Nice. Well,
the smoke. Green smoke. It's the RX 580.
well, Raphael over on Facebook says he only mined for 6 months. And the equipment paid for itself.
6 months seems like a long time, actually.
Yeah.
But Raphael, did you actually like? Oh, so you kept it. But what I'm saying it's the messed up thing is you
then you sell it. Yeah,
like the rental car company. They get this car. They basically made $85,000 off renting that car for what? 18 months, and then they sell the damn thing for 80% of the value of the rental car. Right? That's just been beat to hell. Like a police car's in better shape or a taxi cab.
I do like those old police cars that you could obviously tell that they're old police cars that people buy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Crown Victoria.
I think these are a good deal though, because it's like in your article you're saying when it first came out at $600, you could get them all together for $587. Let's say 590, but that was only because that particular card was on Amazon that day. Everywhere else, it was $40 more.
Yeah.
So that would put the cost up to what, $630. So to get these for $550, I think that's good for what you can find these days with graphics cards prices being what they are. The MSI Armor cooler is kind of doo-doo, but it shouldn't be too bad.
Come on, it's two fans.
Tell us how you feel.
It's two fans.
We do have a couple people in the chat saying that that if you buy all 3 parts on Newegg right now, it's like separately, it's actually $30 less, and that we're ignorant.
Oh, so it changed. It changed from Monday till now. Yeah, but you know what? There's a crate that just dropped in your neighborhood. Okay,
Go get it.
You get away from your computer, be able to run up that hill because there's somebody going up there right now. Yeah, I'm making that up.
Pricing is going to fluctuate because it is a first-gen part, and graphics cards prices are fluctuating so much. So it's going to vary day to day.
Yeah, it changes. In fact, I mean, this morning I checked it on Amazon. It was still about $590 for those 3 parts. So,
and by this morning, he means like literally about 30 minutes before we started shooting the show.
Nice.
So,
And, I mean, Newegg constantly has sales, so it's not, unfathomable that you would be able to beat that price, but you would just have to be watching really carefully every day and just kind of making sure you're cherry picking the right sales to, outdo it.
yeah.
There are some people who don't want to go through that hassle, so I can see the combat crate being worth their time.
Is it? I mean, I guess how long do they have to do this though? If the whole like mining craze goes away and you can actually get GPUs again, do they still need to bundle these things? Is it worth?
they'll
doing
probably
or?
stop. It's probably a mixture of that and getting rid of the old Ryzen stock. So I wouldn't be surprised if it stops when Ryzen's done. Which, by the way, AMD told us this morning that there will also be Ryzen 7 1700 Gamer Crate bundles soon.
Yep.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay.
Those are the crates with the blue smoke.
All right. Cool.
You'll never get to the crate.
Do we
You'll
have
get
time
sniped before you ever get
for
there.
questions?
No, we probably need to wrap it up. But you know what we should do next time? We just need to do an all
Dedicated-
question episode or something.
Yeah, because we have some good ones.
Yeah,
that,
there's some good questions.
we
Sorry,
got an email.
Yeah.
Sorry.
we got
Sorry.
hard out.
Sorry. Plus, it's it's 1,000 degrees in here still, and I gotta really go potty. So
The next episode is episode 50.
Episode 50.
Spending the whole time talking back and forth.
Oh,
The
yeah, we could
audience
make
who
it
let
a-
us go 50 episodes sounds like a great idea to me.
We can reminisce about the good old days of episode 0.
That would
when
be
we
fun.
started.
what we
Wait,
could do
is
is
that
we could just cobble the old ones together.
Oh, that's
A
what we
clip
should
show.
do. A clip,
Just
yeah.
a clip
a
show.
Hey, do you remember this highlight? And then just play it and then talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just have constant shots of Gordon sprinkling paper into his Subway sandwich.
Yes. That'd be a good one.
You're gonna on those SSDs. They're gonna move down. You're gonna have to eat that paper.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. I'm going to take us out. because I got to go stand in line for the Avengers movie. We can talk about that next week. I'm just kidding. Check back next week for your fix of PC talk on The Full Nerd. For audio listeners, subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Also, it is mandatory now under federal law regulation CF 14 subtitle 5 to leave a review on iTunes, positive only, of The Full Nerd. Sorry, it's actually been passed in the latest bill from Congress. Also, send questions and comments to thefullnerd@pcworld.com. I am actually reading them. We have a bunch we're going to talk about next time. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Ung with Brad Charkis.
Adios.
Elaine Yee.
Bye, everyone.
And Adam Patrick Murray will take us out.
Everyone go build a PC.
Running to the bathroom.